Established 100 years ago, the American Soybean Association has represented growers in 30 states on domestic and international policy issues. These trade and regulatory concerns impact more than 300,000 soybean farmers represented by the American Soybean Association. As the ASA continually works to keep abreast these industry-impacting issues, their focus is on protecting the future of U.S. soybean producers. Understanding the outlook for soy products also requires us to understand the need from which the association was born. The story starts with three brothers who were the driving force in the creation of the American Soybean Association. In 1896, Hoosier farmer Solomon Fouts of Carroll County, Indiana, received 2 varieties of soybean seeds from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Solomon and his 3 sons, Taylor, Finis, and Noah, planted the beans on their farm near the community of Deer Creek.
Solomon was given soybeans back in the 1800s by the government, and he was, trying them out. It took a lot of trials to get something to grow. The soil needs to be inoculated. You need bacteria in the soil to grow the soybeans. It took 20 years or so. It took a long time.
Fouts did not find early success in soybeans, but he and his family saw promise in the crop and were determined to make it work. Solomon's youngest son, Taylor, graduated from the School of Agriculture at Purdue University in 1902. He took what he learned at the prestigious institution and put it into practice at home on the family's acreage. He dedicated his efforts towards making soybeans a profitable crop for the farms of the Corn Belt. Taylor set about collecting seeds from all varieties of soybeans he could get his hands on. At planting time, he was ready to start experimenting and learning from the results.
Taylor graduates in '02 from Purdue. While at Purdue, he falls in with some professors that are interested in this new protein source, soybean. Well, that is Taylor's wheelhouse because his dad, Solomon, was on the leading edge. Some reports are he was the first soybean farmer in Carroll County. Purdue is getting more active with soybeans. In 1904, he joins a study that Purdue is sponsoring. '04, Taylor gets his first seeds. It is a flop. It's not working for anybody in the study. And so Taylor goes into '05, another flop, along with the other participants. '06, another flop. They're just barely getting enough seed to replant the next year. Some of the participants begin to drop out. Taylor approaches the 2 brothers, and Finis and Noah join him.
Finis and Noah Fouts joined their brother Taylor in 1908 by planting their first fields of soybeans. They, along with every other farmer in the study who was attempting to grow a decent crop of soybeans, failed to yield good results. With their resolve strengthened, the Fouts were all planting fields with soybeans again the following year.
In '09, though, Finis gets the first successful plot. The next year, the brothers have successful crops. And again, up to this point, nobody's had success growing soybeans on a scale that they could market. So Finis gets the first plot. Noah and Taylor replicate the next year. Then we have the first little field day of just some local Carroll County and Cass County and maybe Howard County, but that first field day comes out of that.
After the success of Finis' soybean crop in 1909 and the promising crops of 1910, the Fouts host the first soybean day in September of 1910 at their farms in Deer Creek.
Because Taylor and Finis and Noah were having to answer so many questions of farmers, I think they thought it was a good idea to have a field day where lots of questions could be answered all at once and so forth. And that's how it started.
They wanted to promote soybeans and try to get the farmers together and share ideas. There's a lot of trial and error that went into it. So I think that's why they did it, so other people wouldn't have to go through some of the things that they had gone through, and they were trying to come up with best practices for soybeans.
The Fouts brothers were recognized as bona fide experts in local soybean farming. With a few successful seasons under their belt and several healthy head of assorted livestock that grazed on the crop, they suddenly discovered a new challenge. Others wanted to grow this crop on their farms, but there was no efficient machinery to harvest the soybeans and offer the seeds for sale. Without available equipment, the Fouts had to become innovators and create their own. They were challenged to adapt what they had to new uses.
They were so innovative, this whole group of guys. They had to develop better machinery, better techniques to plant and to harvest, and things were not being able to be purchased on the market. They had to come up with the ideas. They had to make them. They had to take pieces of metal and pound it out and make brackets and make pieces to adapt to the equipment that they had or that they found to utilize in their operation.
The Fouts continued growing soybeans and improving their yields. Each year's experimentation allowed them to improve the next year's crop. In 1915, Taylor wrote an article about soybeans for the Purdue Agriculturist. In Soybeans, a Coming Crop, Taylor explained the benefits of planting corn and soybeans together. He'd written an earlier piece in 1909 for the same publication about the opportunities farming presented to those who were trained in the science of growing things.
Grandpa would raise sheep. It was a big thing. Every fall he'd get so many sheep in. He's trying to find another crop to help him maintain the feed quality for the sheep. I remember trucks coming in here, be 2 or 3 semis coming from west, and bring lambs into us, and he'd raise them and feed them soybeans or corn, to make them ration.
Demand for soybean seed increased as more area farmers saw the value of the crop offered. The Fouts brothers decided that time was ripe to host another seed day. In the fall of 1916, they again opened their fields to the public for the second seed day on their farms near Deer Creek.
The brothers probably went into this to create a market because, the neighbors saw the potential, and then that kind of spread the news. And then I think they started asking for the soybean seed.
And trying to get the word out. And they were just trying to get just local guys to be involved and to grow and to convince them to grow because it was such a new crop.
They had to do that. They really had to persevere and develop the product and then, take it out and promote it. And that's what they did. People didn't even know what a soybean was or what it was used for in most cases until they had some of the soybean days. And I would say it was not very common at all to grow soybeans prior to these field days because they didn't know, number one, what the product was, what they could use it for, and how it would fit their farming operation.
In 1918, they harvested another good crop of soybeans and then adopted the name Soyland for their farms. Due to the demand and shortages caused by World War I, the price per bushel of soybeans doubled between the years of 1916 and 1918. The 3 brothers joined forces and, in combining their harvests, collected enough seed to start the Soyland Seed Company. This proved to be a good move. By the end of 1919, soybeans were bringing between $6 and $10 a bushel. That's about $90 to $150 in today's money. Soon, farmers from out of state were trekking to Soyland to see the Fouts fields. There was a fascination with the beans and the profits they could generate. Soon, the Fouts brothers coordinated with other growers to host a national field day. They created an event called the Corn Belt Soybean Conference and held it on September 3rd of 1920.
Grandpa and the 2 brothers had everything all set up. They had planted acres. I think there was 200 acres planted of soybeans between 3 farms.
Right.
And so the people that day traveled between farms looking at different varieties. So from that, I think a lot of the farmers that came from out of state, Wisconsin and whatever, learned best practices to use in their states. And then also Grandpa had created a harvesting machine at that 1920 meeting. And so that was on display to see, and that was the forerunner of the combine, actually.
The farmers that attended that soy day in September, they realized how large the Fouts brothers' animals were, the hogs, the size of the hogs. They were pretty healthy because they were eating the soybean forage, the hay, not so much the beans. The beans were still green on the plant at the time.
An estimated 1,000 farmers came from all around the Midwest to Carroll County, Indiana, to attend the event at Soyland Farms. From this meetup, the National Soybean Growers Association was formed. Later, this group was renamed the American Soybean Association. Taylor Fouts was the first man elected to the office of president of the new Association of Growers. The Fouts brothers played a key role in the soybean industry we see today. Their pioneering spirit and dogged dedication to make soybeans a top crop has a worldwide impact.
Soybeans have really been everything for my family. Finis, Noah, and Taylor actually planted the first successful yields of soybeans in the United States and became seed farmers very successfully. They were able to help found the American Soybean Association. I'm so proud of my family history. It's really been a defining feature in my life. It's helped me choose a career path. It's given me such a sense of pride in agriculture, in this country, in my family alone. And it's great to get some recognition because I've grown up on these stories of what Noah and Finis and Taylor did. And I think it's so important. I mean, they started the Soybean Association and they really just pioneered this crop that is so important today. So I love that their innovation and their vision is being recognized for how important it really is.
Soybeans is a wonderful crop, has great potential. They're still discovering uses of soybean. And so that legacy goes on, and it means a lot that somebody from the family were the first ones in Indiana to raise and produce soybeans and become such a wonderful crop. They had this vision that they obviously carried out with a passion throughout their life. I think that their vision probably wasn't as great as what it really is today, so they would be tremendously honored.
Congratulations to the American Soybean Association for 100 years of dedicated service to the American soybean farmer.